I remember the cold that night more than anything else. It wasn't the kind of chill that just brushed your skin, it sank into your bones, sharp and merciless, like the prairie itself had turned against you. The wind carried with it the scent of pine and smoke from faraway fires, and in that silence broken only by the howl of coyotes, I stumbled upon something I never expected to find: salvation and heartbreak, and a bond one never imagined could be forged between strangers. I was one of those women lying half dead in the snow. We had been running for days. My sisters and I, daughters of the Apache, raised beneath the endless western sky, had fled from violence we could not fight. White soldiers had raided our camp, scattering us like frightened deer. We ran through the forest with nothing but the clothes on our backs and the memory of our mother's last words burning in our ears: live, no matter what. By the time the storm hit, we had lost our strength, lost our hope. The trees loomed tall and merciless, the ground cold and unyielding beneath us. We curled against each other, whispering faint prayers into the wind. And then blackness. When I woke, it was to the crackle of a fire and the coarse wool of a blanket tucked around my shoulders. At first, I thought I had crossed into the spirit world. But then I saw him. He was tall, with a rugged face carved by years of wind and hardship. His eyes were the color of storm clouds, and though his clothes smelled of leather, horses, and wood smoke, there was something softer lingering there, something that spoke of loneliness. A rancher, I thought. A man who belonged to the land, just as much as the land had claimed him. "You're safe now," he said in a low, careful voice, as though speaking too loud might shatter us. My sisters still lay beside me, wrapped in his coats, their faces pale but alive. He had carried us, one by one, from the snow to his cabin deep in the forest. A stranger to us, yet he de-risked his life to save ours. That night, as the fire threw shadows across the cabin walls, I lay awake, listening to the wind batter against the windows. He moved about quietly, tending to our wounds, boiling water, grinding herbs. Every movement was steady, deliberate, yet I could see the tension in his shoulders. He didn't know what to make of us. 3 Apache women on his floor, 3 reminders of a world divided by blood and history. But he had chosen compassion over fear. Days passed, and our strength returned slowly. He taught us how to warm our hands by holding hot stones wrapped in cloth, how to sip broth so our stomachs would not turn. My sisters clung to me, and I clung to the unspoken kindness in his gaze. He asked us no questions we could not answer. He only said, "You'll stay here until you're strong enough to leave." And yet, as the snow continued to fall outside, leaving the trails impassable, the cabin became our world. A fragile peace grew between us. My youngest sister, little Ayana, laughed when he showed her how to whittle wood into the shape of a bird. My older sister, Tala, who had not smiled since the raid, found her voice again when he asked her to help with the horses. And me. I found myself watching him when he wasn't looking, wondering about the man who had chosen kindness in a land that so often rewarded cruelty. But not everyone in the West was so forgiving. The day came when riders approached his ranch. I saw the way his jaw tightened, the way his hand rested on the rifle by the door. Neighbors, men who believed the land belonged only to them, who saw Apache women as little more than shadows to be chased away. "What are you doing harboring them?" one of them spat, his voice dripping with anger. "They don't belong here. They'll bring trouble to your doorstep." I felt my heart pound as though it might burst from my chest. I had seen that hatred before it had burned my village to the ground. My sisters clung to me, fear wide in their eyes. For a moment, I thought he might hand us over, wash his hands of us to keep his peace. But he didn't. He stood tall on that porch, the winter wind tearing at his coat, and said, "They're staying. They're human, same as you and me. If you've got a problem with that, you know where to find the gate." Silence fell heavy after his words, broken only by the creak of saddles and the shuffle of restless horses. One by one, the men turned their mounts, anger flashing in their eyes. They left, but I knew the danger was far from gone. That night, I sat by the fire, staring into the flames. My chest ached with gratitude and something deeper, something I dared not name. When I looked at him, I no longer saw just a rancher. I saw a man willing to risk everything for 3 women he had no reason to protect. When spring came and the snow melted, the time for parting drew near. My sisters longed to return to what was left of our people, to search for kin and rebuild. But my heart was torn. Part of me yearned to go, to honor my mother's words, to live and carry on our blood. Yet another part wanted to stay. Wanted to know what life might look like if I dared to reach across the divide between us. The morning we saddled the horses, he stood by the corral, silent, his hat pulled low to hide his eyes. I walked to him, my hands trembling as I clutched the blanket he had given me that first night. "You saved us," I whispered. "Not just our bodies, but our spirits. I will carry that always." He looked at me then, really looked, as though memorizing the lines of my face. His voice was rough when he spoke. "I was the one saved. Don't you see I was alone before you came? I didn't realize how cold life had been until you warmed this place." The wind stirred between us, carrying with it the scent of wildflowers and earth waking from winter. My sisters called for me, their voices growing fainter as they rode ahead. And still, I lingered. I didn't promise him I would return, and he didn't ask. But in that look we shared, in the silence that stretched between us, there was a bond that could not be broken by distance or time.